Hi, I'm Hazel. It's Saturday today, which makes it time to sit down and catch up on the WoW news of the week, what I have been up to, and answer some of your questions. This week, patch 9.2.5 dropped, and it brought with it some surprises. They can still surprise us. Go figure. Unbeknownst to the public until right about when the patch dropped, they added new elf customizations as well as a new transmog set for hunters. There are several new surprise quest lines, and completing the Return to Lordaeron quest line in particular will unlock new customizations for your Blood Elves, Void Elves, and Night Elf characters, and then if you complete the quest line on a hunter, you will unlock the Dark Ranger Hunter set for any hunter character. The transmog set looks like this, and then Wowhead has those elf customizations available to play around with in their dressing room if you have not done the quest line yet and you want to mess around with them. You can see what sort of Dark Ranger character that you might make. Or you could do the quest line and then go make one. Another surprise from 9.2.5, Blizzard has added late season alt catch-up boxes. So these are BOA gear boxes that you can buy for Valor or Conquest. They do require some either Mythic Plus or PvP rating respectively, but they let you spend those currencies to buy gear and then send it to an alt who will then get a piece of gear in a random slot. All of the gear from these boxes is Creation Catalyst eligible, so if you're setting up a new alt to play with enough time and Cosmic Flux, you could theoretically get your 4-piece tier set bonus without ever having set foot in a dungeon or a raid on that character. You will need some luck because those gear boxes create a piece for a random slot, so you gotta try to not get unlucky and get the same slot twice, but better than nothing, which is what we had up until this week. The biggest change to live WoW this week with the patch has definitely been cross-faction, and people have been diving into Mythic Plus and raids with members of the opposite faction. Not so much PvP. There was an update that PvP was a little broken, the rated PvP. It's intended to work cross-faction, but they've disabled it because it was not working good. And, you know, given how touchy raiding is, they didn't really want to leave it up if it was going to be working wonky. So they've disabled that for now, and then they updated again to say they were going to keep it down until they had a suitable fix because of how careful they want to be with everybody's, rated PvP ratings. So you cannot yet run arena with members of the opposite faction, but you'll be able to as soon as they get that fixed. I myself cannot tell you that I have been doing dungeons or raids, because if we're honest, I was about done with those things for the season anyways, but I can tell ya that I made a new bank alt. Now that we can trade things between characters of opposite faction on a given server, and you can do that, you can mail yourself gold, you can mail yourself gear, anything you want. With all of that in mind, I made a new bank alt. She's a goblin, she's fabulous. Your horde characters will not be able to be a member of the same guild, but because they're all characters on your account, they're all yours. Mailing is still instant between them. And that way your guild can't judge you for logging on in the middle of the night to reset your auctions. In Dragonflight discussion for the week, Blizzard released some proto talent trees. The talent revamp is one of the things that people are most excited about for Dragonflight, and we've gotten our first really big preview of exactly what one of these new Dragonflight talent trees is going to look like. They've released screenshots as well as extensive write-ups telling you exactly what each ability is going to do, as well as a pretty long blog post that answers how everything's going to work, kind of brings up some anticipated questions along with the explanations, talks about the reasoning of why everything is the way it is, and just kind of gives some context. So particularly if you're having feelings about these talent trees, I would encourage you to give that a read if you didn't do so already. I will link it down below. It is, I will warn you, a little tough, or at least I found it a little bit tough to get the hang of the tree itself, because you can't click around the screenshot. It's a screenshot. It's not in a calculator or anything just yet. And it's a bit tough to kind of pour through the giant list of abilities and then be like, yes, this one is in here and it is over here on the screenshot. It felt a little bit like putting together a mystery. I will probably have a more fully formed opinion when we either get calculators or just a working alpha. But from the first glance, I think it looked pretty cool. If I had to summarize up the primary reaction that I've been seeing from people about these talent trees, and to be fair, I, went into comment sections and Twitter and stuff, so I was expecting the worst. People are generally speaking surprised that so many core class abilities are actually on the talent tree as opposed to being granted as baseline. It's very easy to kind of see things that are part of your main toolkit and be like, wait, why is that on the talent tree? I used to get that for free, and then feel like you've had something taken away from you. People are concerned because with the way that we currently make talent choices, you only have a handful of choices to make, and nobody wants to feel like they're going to have to sacrifice something cool in order to get their interrupt, which may now be on the talent tree. All of those concerns were talked about in the blog post, and they've said that things that feel very core and important, such as your interrupt, are going to be in easily accessible places in the tree that aren't asking you to make really hard choices to get to. Another thing to remember is that by the time that you get to level 70, you are going to have 61 points to spend. So you're getting a whole bunch of this. There's no world in which you do it all wrong and you don't have any buttons. You're getting quite a bit of it. You've just been given like a lot more choice in the matter. And I would say that choice can sometimes be stressful, especially if you feel very afraid of doing the wrong thing. But I would say, and maybe I'm just making a lot of excuses because I'm really excited about Dragonflight and I thought the tree looked cool, but I'd say that you got to remember that in Dragonflight, changing talents is going to be much less painful than it was like the last time we had complicated trees like this. They are intending for you to make and save multiple loadouts. So if you're looking at a choice and you're like, man, I don't want to pick between my AoE ability and my single target ability, you're probably going to make an AoE build and you're going to make a single target build and you're going to be able to swap between them pretty easily depending on the situation. This is not a conduit energy system where you're going to make a very bad choice and then have to like live with it and think about what you've done. Playing with talents is going to be very low risk. You're going to be able to swap them around without having to really commit anything. So you can try something out, and then if you don't like it, then you can try something different. I'm excited about the concept. I think that at first glance it looks really good. I will say that I only really looked through the Resto Druid tree because that's the spec that I had the most familiarity with. So looking at the Death Knight options wouldn't do me a whole lot of good. I don't know what Death Knights do. But I will say the whole thing does feel overwhelming. I think that's partly because of the whole blog post plus screenshot format. And then partly because it is a lot more overwhelming than our current talent system. But you gotta remember that this is not just replacing our like 7 option 3 choice per tier talent system. It is replacing that talent system plus your soulbinds and your covenant choice and your conduit choice and your legendary choice. Right now we have a lot of these like interconnecting decisions and different systems that we interact with in order to make like a loadout for our characters. And the new Dragonflight talent system is going to kind of replace all of that. So it makes sense for it to be more involved because it's replacing more than just one system. It's also still in development, so things can and will probably change, but they definitely seem keen on gathering as much feedback as they can now so that they can have all of that kind of in hand while they're making choices about what to change going through Dragonflight development. And then in my life this week, I did what kind of felt like the WoW equivalent of giving yourself bangs at midnight, which is I decimated my alt collection. I deleted probably 25 odd characters. I am down below half of the character limit now. Some of those characters were just low-level characters that I had just customized for fun, or they were holding names. Quite a few of them were level 50 characters that I just looked at and realized I was never going to level them any further. All of them served their purpose already, and I feel like I can always restore things if I ever really regret deleting anyone in particular, but I have so much more room on my character select screen now. I basically Marie Kondo'd my character select screen, and now there's so much more room for new adventures. I can make a whole bunch of new alts. Ideally one at a time. I'm trying to not let myself level more than one at a time, but especially now that I'm kind of consolidating my horde characters onto the same server as my alliance ones because they can mail each other stuff now. It just seems much fresher and easier to start over with a bunch of alts. So I still have like 20 odd alts and 9 level 60s now. So it's not like I don't have any characters to play, but I got rid of a lot of the extras. Do I recommend it? I recommend it, but I let go of things very easily. You may have a harder time with this if you don't. And then speaking of letting go of things, in my real life, I migrated my 2 PC setup to a single PC setup, and just to kind of save some electricity and simplify things because things were more complicated than you would expect them to be for specific applications. Anyways, it's a lot nicer here now. 2 computers had some advantages, but just one computer also has some advantages, and it's going to be a little nicer on my power bill. More is not always better. Sometimes more is just more. There have been some growing pains though, just because it meant migrating all of my recording and my streaming to a new computer, and one of the casualties was my audio processing. So I know the videos are super quiet last week. If this one is somehow accidentally super loud, I am very sorry. You probably didn't make it this far if I've been screaming at you this whole time. I'm working on it, work in progress. And the questions for this week, Tim wants to know, would you mind explaining the pros and cons of having tunes on both factions on the same server? 925 seems to address some of the social concerns. So now that they can send each other mail and that there's no server specific character limit, like you can have all 50 of your account's characters on one server if you like. The only problem is that you're going to be scrolling really far. The only downside that I can think of is that those characters cannot be a member of the same guild as of now. It's possible that they add cross-faction guilds in the future down the road, but for right now, they cannot be guildies. But other than that, I can't see any good reason not to have them all on one server, and I have been, I'd say, migrating characters. There's a sale on character transfers, but why would you transfer a character by paying money when you could just level it all over again and give yourself the joy of leveling? I like leveling. And then Faye asks, what are your top 5 mounts that you've collected, and what are your top 5 mounts that you want? So 5 really makes you dig, apparently. I went looking through the list, and here's what I came up with. In no particular order, the top 5 mounts that I already have, I would say the Snapback Scuttler, because it is a unique appearance. It was hard to get, and any mount that I found challenging to acquire, I feel like is more close to my heart, because that struggle made me more obstinate and therefore more attached. And then it's also very, very cute because look at its pinchy claws. The Brutosaur made my top 5 because of its life-changing utility, in addition to its stompy feet. And then the Swift Spectral Tiger. This is my fondest TCG mount. I have quite a few of them that I bought with Mission Table Gold back in Warlords of Draenor, but this one was the most expensive. And it was so expensive that I actually overcame my social anxiety to mail, in-game mail, the player that had this thing listed on the auction house so that I can make an appointment to meet up with them and buy it in like an in-person trade, because when auctions get that expensive, the auction house cut is a pretty big chunk of gold. So I figured we could do it in person and then like split that cut. So I did that. I bought it by a canal in Stormwind. I remember exactly where I was standing when I learned it. And then I needed 2 more. So I looked through the list and I picked out my White Riding Goat because this is just from Tiller's Exalted. I wanted one on the list that's a little easier to get just in case anybody wants a place to start, and because they're very cute. He looks very warm, he looks very fuzzy, and he looks very practical. And then Molly, because BFA just had fantastic mounts and you can't argue with the alpacas. It was almost the Rat Stallion, but the Rat Stallion got bumped for Molly because I saw Molly on the list, and then I remembered that they jump around for their mount special, and I really need to ride the alpacas more. There's 3 of them and they're all cute, but Molly's the cute one. As far as mounts that I don't have and I want, this is difficult because I try to be zen about this kind of thing. If I want something too badly, then it just hurts you. I feel like I try to appreciate the ones that I already have. However, Sharkbait, ooh ha ha. Actually, all 3 of the BFA original dungeon mounts, so Sharkbait, and then also the one from King's Rest and the one from Underrot. I need all of them, and I'm actually starting to farm them now, so hopefully I get some lucky drops on stream soon. The Solar Spirehawk, because it is gorgeous, and this one I am less likely to get lucky on because I don't try. The world boss mount drop rates I feel like are just so rude. They're so much lower than even like a dungeon mount drop rate, combined with the fact that it's a weekly lockout and that you have to like wait for a spawn and compete with other players to even get a spawn of the world boss up. It just means that I don't really farm world boss mounts. I would rather farm Invincible again than try to get the Solar Spirehawk. My best chance is probably to get lucky in the black market auction house. 3rd on my list, I would say Vengeance. It is a very unique look. I will farm this in like 4 years or whenever we're like enough expansions down the road that I can go ahead and solo this on Mythic, because it looks awesome, but I'm not raiding Mythic Sanctum. That's a no thank you. And then last, is that 4? No, I'm missing one. I couldn't think of 5 that I wanted. I guess the first one counted for 3. The last one would be any glad mount, literally any of them, not for the mount's sake, but just for the achievement's sake. I got pretty close in the 3rd season of Warlords. I got quite high rated. I got to like 2597, but then I tanked it before the end of the season, and then I did not get a glad mount, and I've never ever come that close since. It could be anything. It could be a little earthworm with little bits of mud on it, like not like a cool like sandworm. It could be a little round earthworm that looks like it's going to teach me how to read, and I would be so happy that I wouldn't write anything else if I got one of those, because I would just be so proud of myself for having gotten it. However, I do think my chances of like high-end PvP are probably over, not because I'm too old, but because I'm too happy. I believe that unless you're already quite good at PvP out of experience, you need to have some kind of void in your soul or your life that you are trying to fill with PvP in order to make you go through the rigors that it takes to actually get that good, because it's just hard. I feel like getting that rating took more out of me than Mage Tower challenges. It took more out of me than like any raid I'd ever done. I think I'm just too content with my life now to put myself through that again, but if I ever change my mind, it would be really, really cool to get a glad mount and to earn it. I don't want to get carried. People are going to say that I got carried anyways. So I want to at least know for myself that I like actually put in the work. That has been the week. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions for a news video, please pop it in the comments of the most recent video and include the word question to help me find it. Some quick self-promotion. I am streaming 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Tuesday through Sunday, so every day except for Monday over on Twitch. And I have a new member video up for any of my $10 a month YouTube YouTube members. I showed a couple of my host plans in that one, so that is available for anyone on that tier, and it's basically just like Patreon, except it's done right through YouTube. I'll put a link to that down below if anybody wants to check out these support perks. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye.